All right, so driving in New Zealand, especially on the South Island, can be a beautiful and rewarding experience, but it's important to be prepared and drive safely, especially if you are new to driving in New Zealand and on that side of the road. So today we're going to go over 20 driving tips for the South Island of New Zealand along this beautiful road trip. Alright guys, let's begin with the first 5 of those tips that we have for you. And the first tip that I have, and it's a very easy one, is to drive on the left. New Zealand drives on the left side of the road, so keep left at all time unless passing, of course.
Second on our list is to check the road conditions before you head out, especially if there has been a lot of heavy rain, for example, or if there's been any snowfall. If you're perhaps traveling through some mountainous areas, it's always a good idea to check if there's been any landslips or any, or if there is snow on the roads. It's good to be prepared for all that. And Robin will talk a little bit about that in the next point.
Yeah, so speaking of the road conditions, staying informed is extremely important, right? So there's many different ways to stay informed, such as like listening to the local radio station for the traffic updates and everything. But who does that? Most importantly, there is the NZTA, which is the New Zealand Transport Agency's website. And on their website, they really have a wealth of information for you to be able to plan your journey safely. And my favorite feature on their website is that they have a big map that actually has reporting, live of all the different road closures and anything like that. And that's really handy, because what I will do if I was to plan a trip in the South Island of New Zealand, which literally I did when shooting this video, just load that page on the website. Just load it on your browser and just refresh it every morning. Just check that your route is going to be okay, or what are the current warnings, and then you'll be able to plan a bit of a detour. As you can see, we just passed a road construction signs as I was speaking, so yeah.
Next on the list is to, speaking of your route, it's a good idea to actually plan your route. Plan which roads you're going to take to get to your destination, because just popping on Google Maps and just following it blindly isn't always the best idea in New Zealand. It often wants to take you on the fastest route, but not necessarily the safest route to get to some areas, especially in rural areas of the South Island. So when you are planning your route, make sure that you can by all means use whatever GPS app that you prefer, but just check.
We're not paid to say that, but we prefer Maps.me vastly over Google Map. There is vast difference and improvements there.
It's a lot of fun to put all the pins on the maps of where you're going to go. But so make sure that you actually check the route if you can. Maybe even if a road looks a little bit questionable, check on the the satellite views. Sometimes they do take you onto, say, rural farm gravel roads and stuff. So yeah, just double check your route, double check your destination. Don't just follow Google Maps blindly.
And finally, for the first 5, we have 20 in this video. So finally, for the first 5, take breaks. It's a very obvious one. The South Island is vast and absolutely stunning. So make sure that you take regular breaks to first take in the view, enjoy the journey, but also just rest yourself. The good thing with New Zealand is that it definitely is a country of amazing amount of destinations, very close nearby to each other. So you won't really be hard pressed to find great places to stop. But yeah, do make sure that you include breaks, and therefore you calculate your driving time accordingly. Alright, that's the first 5. We will have 5 more a little bit later. Alright, let's do 5 more tips for traveling and driving on the South Island of New Zealand. Nora, take it away.
Okay, first on the list we have respect the speed limits. So there are various speed limits that are signposted, usually on the side of the road. Very easy to spot signs and a very good indication of what speed that you should be going. Even on sort of, the national highways where you can go like the national speed limit, which is 100 kilometers per hour. There there are, of course, a lot of twists and turns on the road. So you will see around corners, there's usually a suggested speed limit for taking some of the corners at a slower speed limit than 100 k per
And the
hour.
suggestions are very accurate.
So yeah, when you see those suggestions, slow down to that speed is usually a good way to go. But yeah, just respect the speed limits. They're obviously slower in settlements, in urban areas, so have a look at those before you arrive as well. What is it usually in villages and towns is usually
50 kilometers, yeah.
So yeah, bear that in mind. Usually if you come to a town and you didn't see the sign to slow down, going down to 50 is usually a good way to go.
All right, so next up, watch out for wildlife. So there is quite often signs on the side of the road. They're usually big diamond-shaped yellow signs that will tell you, or that will have a sign of either a kiwi bird, a pukeko, or anything like that. And usually those signs also are pretty accurate. And usually in those areas you will see, sadly, some beautiful blue pukeko birds dead on the side of the road. Or you'll see some South Island speed bump, also known as possums, dead on the side of the road. So do be aware that there is actually wildlife crossing. It's not just a sign for the sake of a sign. So when you see those big signs saying be aware wildlife crossing, just do slow down, because it does ruin a holiday if you feel like you have hurt a local wildlife.
Next on the list is to drive defensively. So it's a good rule of thumb when you're driving around New Zealand is to sort of assume that not everybody knows the road rules. If you are coming to an intersection and it looks like, are those guys going to go straight on, or are they going to turn? Even if maybe they'll put on their indicator right at the last second, but just sort of, yeah, just be aware that people may not always respect the road rules, and you just have to, always be alert, always be cautious when you're traveling.
Always. Speaking of that, use the pullouts. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, as when this video was recorded live, right, a lot of time Kiwis are going to be driving very close to your back, like very, very close. There's no notion in this country of driving safely sometimes. It drives me nuts. But there is also a lot of pullouts, which is kind of sections where you can kind of go on the side of the road in order to let other pass, or there is like a passing lanes or those kind of things, right? Make sure that you make use of that, and as soon as you can go left to let other people pass, just do them and do it and let them pass and go at the speed that they want. It's fine. They can continue to try to compensate for something, and you can keep on driving safe.
And next up on our list is to wear seatbelts.
Oh, wow.
In a lot of countries, that's pretty obvious, but actually, surprisingly, in some countries, it's not obvious.
Yeah,
so, wear seatbelts. Everybody in the car should be wearing seatbelts. It is the law in New Zealand. So, yeah, use them.
All right. All right, here's 5 more tips. So we're gonna go 11 to 15 tips to travel in New Zealand, to road trip in New Zealand in the South Island. So first up, let's talk about overtaking. So only overtake cars when it's safe to do so. As you can see on screen right now, this is a state highway. They are not the widest, and there is often not 2 lines that go in the same direction, so to help you pass. So wait for a passing lane, or make sure that you have the visibility to see, and that there is no turns. You can clearly see that you can overtake, and no matter what, remember you're on a holiday, maybe you don't need to overtake. Okay, number 12.
Number 12 on the list is follow the road signs. There's road signs in New Zealand that indicate what you can and cannot do, where you can give way, signs where you should stop at an intersection, so you don't just pull out and keep rolling those wheels. There's signs in place for your safety. You should be able to recognize what they mean.
To me, the most important road signs that you will find in New Zealand are the one-way bridges, which will explain to you how to navigate a one-way bridge, and also the steepness of the road that will tell you if you need to actually, go a gear lower even on your automatic car in order to be able to have more control on your vehicle. That's 2 signs that I usually tend to watch out for the most.
Yeah.
Speaking of watching out, next tip is to watch out for cyclists. So as you can see on screen again, I like to kind of point out to this screen, this road right here is also shared with cyclists at times and quite often, right? So do be aware of that and give them ample space when you pass cyclists, right? You need to give them like much more than a meter. Most people give them like 1 meter, right? Give them 2. Give them as much space as possible, because yeah, you know, being a cyclist, sharing a road as thin and as narrow of that's not necessarily the best. Laura, next up.
Next up, we need to prepare for alpine driving. So, yeah, when you are in mountainous areas, first of all, it is going to be a lot of twists and turns. These are the narrow, winding roads. So definitely you will not want to be at 100 kilometers per hour at these areas. Also, it could be potentially snowing in some of the alpine areas as well. So check, like we said earlier in the video, check the weather before you head out. Check if there's any road closures in these mountainous areas, and if there is going to be snow, or if there is a chance of snow, then it is a good idea to rent snow chains with your car rental or camper van rental and know how to use them.
Exactly. All right, and last up, fuel up. Yeah, that sounds insane, but you need fuel in the car in order to go. And there are many areas where you will have very long stretches of road with no gas station. I'm thinking from Taupo to Napier on the north end of New Zealand, but we talk about the south end of New Zealand right here. Arthur Pass, for example, it's a very long kind of drive that a lot of people like to do. Make sure that you have a full gas tank in there.
We even had some hairy moments just going between Kaikoura and Christchurch, actually.
That is true, that is true.
Yeah, so yeah, there has been a few times where you start to get the sweats because you're like, oh my god, we're going to run out of fuel.
No, we don't. Laura does.
I do, but yeah, just also, it's... if you want to avoid those stresses, plan some fuel stops as well.
All right, we are at 15. There's 5 more to go. Okay, so let's go with 5 more tips for the southern end of New Zealand, Laura.
Okay, first on this section of tips...
16, in fact, one may
16,
say.
Is... it is illegal to use your cell phone in your hand while driving. It's the same as many other countries. You should be, if you are going to use your phone while driving, it should be handheld. So, you know, using speakers, putting it on a nice little phone holder in front of you. Same for if you're using the GPS for your phone. Just don't have it in your hands. It's not legal and it's not safe.
So Robert was talking about that a little bit later in the live show, and a little bit earlier in the live show, and was saying he's going to take his time traveling around the south of New Zealand, and that's definitely something you should be doing. Take your time, embrace the journey, enjoy the stunning scenery. As I say that, there is no scenery whatsoever on screen.
Beautiful scenery, as you see.
Yes.
This is definitely weather you'd want to get out of your car for.
But yeah, take your time, take breaks, enjoy yourself. So just make sure that basically you are allowing, when scheduling your drives, extra time for taking in the journey, right? So if your drive is supposed to be 1 hour, plan for an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes, and it's fine. It's okay. Just enjoy it. Don't plan things too close together, because otherwise you're going to be forced to rush.
Yes, and we don't like to rush. Next on the list is to use rest areas. Speaking of taking your time, there are often plenty of rest areas in New Zealand which are indicated by blue signs with a little picture of a picnic area, like a little picnic bench with a tree over the top for a nice piece of shade, you know, very idyllic signs. So use those rest areas. It's quite good in New Zealand. You do find them quite often, so if you do need to stop, pull up where it's safe, and often, like we were saying, plan your route, but also plan where you're going to stop. There's some really good, really short walks, or really good sightseeing areas, waterfalls, that sort of thing. So plan where you're going to stop along the way. Plan where you're going to stop to maybe get coffee or lunch. Do all that planning, all that good stuff, and use those rest areas.
Somebody's smashing the heart button. I love it. Okay, next up on our list, it's our PSA, second to last, but our quick PSAs. Respect the environment. New Zealand's beautiful. New Zealand's green. Have a little bit of a trash bag in your car and keep your trash inside the car. Don't toss anything on the window. Only drive on marked roads. Don't stop randomly somewhere to, do your business. There's plenty of rest areas with bathroom and all that. So yeah, just do respect the environment as you drive. Just respect the environment.
finally, on our
Last
list
one.
is plan for the holidays. So during public holidays or school holidays or even at weekends, the roads get busier in New Zealand, and admittedly that's when the most accidents happen on New Zealand roads,
Yeah.
especially during like long holiday weekends, public holidays. So be aware of when they are. Obviously, be extra cautious during those times, but if you can avoid maybe driving during a public holiday, it is probably advised. But if not, just be super cautious during those holiday times.
Alright, so that wraps up 20 tips for driving on the South Island of New Zealand. Remember that New Zealand's weather can change rapidly and the condition can vary greatly depending on where you are on the South Island. Always prioritize safety and adapt your driving to the conditions you encounter. Enjoy your journey through the stunning landscape of the South Island. Hit like, subscribe and check nzpocketguide.com for more tips.